We were at a loss. There's nothing else that we could do, and it seemed like the doctors didn't even know what to do.
We had no hope left in ourselves to do the right thing, in the doctors, in the medicine. It just came down to the best thing to come down to, which is hope, faith, trust in God, the creator and giver of life.
We are Daniel and ViviAn Sluys.
And we're here to tell you the story about our first daughter's birth, about 13 years ago, almost 14. We found out that we were going to have a baby that was not quite put together right. Her guts were on the outside instead of on the inside. So when it was time for her to come, we moved to Vancouver. We were living in the parking lot of BC Children's. And she had surgery right after birth, and things were looking well. She was moving through from the primary NICU to the secondary NICU. And then one day we went in and she had spots from head to toe, and nobody knew what was going on. Specialists, pediatricians, they just had no idea what was going on. She was moaning and crying, and they moved her back to primary care. And we just didn't know what to do, and we're really desperate for something to happen. And so we went out to Queen Elizabeth Park, crying out to God and just yelling a little bit. We were quite angry, especially Dan.
Yeah, we're just in Queen Elizabeth Park, middle of the night. I just had to get some anger out, get some frustration out, and so I got out, and I had tools in my trunk, and so I took out my hammer, had a little hatchet on the back, and there's this pile of logs or wood in the park there, and I just started chopping it, just started releasing my anger, my frustration. I felt God speak to me, and he was saying, you know, get back in your car, and I started the car, and I started driving out of Queen Elizabeth Park, and he said, I want you to stop your car, and there's gonna be this guy there that I want you to pray for. And so I pulled out, and I'm like, and Viv has no idea what's going on right now. I'm just like, not letting her in. She's like calling my name, and I'm just keeping her out of the loop. And so, sure enough, I look over my shoulder, and there's this guy walking, and I rolled down my window, and as he walked by, I was like, hey, this is gonna sound weird, but I think I'm supposed to pray for you. Can I pray for you? And he says, yeah. And so at that point, I got out of the vehicle, and I asked him his name, and if he had any specific requests that he wanted prayer for. And he says, no, just general. And so I asked him his name so I could pray for him by name, and it was Peter. And I thought it was kind of cool that it was a biblical name. And so I prayed for him. I don't know exactly what I prayed for. But after that, we said goodbye, and he said thank you. And I got back in the car, and I was just kind of, I think I started to let Viv in on kind of what was going on, and she was kind of hearing what was going on. And I got back in, and I just had this overwhelming sense of peace come over me. And I told ViviAn that it was going to be okay. And you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, he said that Shaylin was going to be okay, and I was outside of this whole experience he had, right? So I'm just, as he suddenly gets in the car and just won't talk to me and is driving down, I'm just kind of like, what's going on? And then, yeah, so to see the anger to the calm and just this pure hope that Shaylin was okay. And I'm like doubting, I'm like, that's great. I'm glad that you were told that, but you know, like, don't be too disappointed when she's not okay, you know? But she was okay. Of course, we couldn't go into the hospital to see her after midnight. So we went in the morning, and yeah, she moved really quickly then from there and to out of the hospital. And yeah, she's almost 14 years old now, and just amazing. The difference between him when we got into the park and when he's like a crazy man, just hacking at this wood, letting out the anger, and such a hopeless time of despair. And then to him getting in the car after praying with this guy, just so calm, so full of hope. We really hadn't experienced hope like that. Mm-hmm. So completely overwhelming us especially him.
Yeah, it's a good time to, it's a time in our lives that we can look back on and look at the hope that we experienced in that moment and be hopeful for moments again like those in the future.